All right, on to the airport traffic service and airspace information. This one here you definitely need to be intimately familiar with, as I discussed in the other airspace lecture and the discussions there. So just recognize Class Bravo airspace is a solid blue, as you see. Class Charlie is the solid magenta. Class Delta airspace is the dashed blue line, where the ceiling is indicated here in this segmented box, in this case 4,000 feet. Notice it says it's in hundreds of feet, so 40 add 2 zeros, that's 4,000. That's how you get that. Okay. Rare do I ever see it, but you might minus ceiling value indicates surface up to, but not including that value. Not tested, so don't worry about it. Class Echo airspace is shown by all of this over here. Okay, so if Class Echo airspace is controlled airspace, so you need an air traffic control clearance if you're operating in that area. Now, how do you know? Well, if it's got the dash segmented here, Class Echo begins at the surface. Okay, so if you're flying within the confines of a dashed magenta, you need air traffic control authorization. However, when you see the wide magenta here, Class Echo airspace, the floor is at 700 feet above the surface. And similarly, if it's got the wide blue line there with the faded line, Class Echo airspace, the floor is at 1,200 feet above the surface, and it butts against Class Golf airspace. So that's good news. So when you see the blue here, you're pretty much free to fly. You're going to be below 400 feet anyways. Any part of this Class Echo, you're fine. Same thing here. This indicates where Class Echo airspace is somewhat different. Again, it'll be depicted as long as you're below 400 feet AGL, not a problem. Okay, but otherwise, if there's no depiction, and this kind of subtle here as well, Class Echo airspace exists at 1,200 feet AGL unless it's otherwise designated by one of these symbols. Okay, an example of that is you'll see this on an exam, so pay attention. Okay, you have a federal airway. In this case, you have Victor 69. It's indicated by this gray line, and it's got the designator V for Victor with a number. Okay, the rest of these symbols you don't need to worry about, but you do need to know that Class Echo airspace begins at 1,200 feet AGL, okay, when you see a federal airway. All right. Moving on up here, you have prohibited, restricted, warning areas. Okay, it'll be by this hashed blue line. Similarly, you have an alert area, military operating areas will be by this hash magenta line. Special airport traffic areas will have this slanted hash line. You'll see that for high-speed military training bases, such as Homestead Air Force Base in Florida and such. You'll see that. And again, that's controlled airspace, so make sure you get an air traffic control clearance. The other ones that you want to be aware of is right here where it says military training route. Okay, it'll have a designator IR or VR. In this case, it's IR 211. And remember, those can have high-speed military aircraft training activities down to pretty close to the ground, up to about 1,500 feet AGL. Okay, and again, not you want to confuse this lightly thin gray line versus this federal airway. It's a little bit thicker. Okay, the big way to notice it is you got the IR designator or VR designator versus for the airway you have just the V, just the Victor. So don't confuse those two. Those are both tested. Okay. Another thing to be aware of here is, again, I'm going to recover this again, as the VFR waypoints. Both of these symbols are actually tested. You need to know the name. You need to know that there's a high concentration of VFR airplanes, VFR traffic that's coming in and out at an airport. It's common checkpoints that are used so that everybody knows where other airplanes are. So, okay, so that covers this part of the legend, and then we'll move on next to the actual airport data section block.